Have you ever walked into a room full of people and still felt completely invisible? Have you ever looked around and wondered, why does everyone else seem to have friends, but I'm always alone? Millions of people quietly carry this question in their hearts every day. Is something wrong with me? You see others laughing in groups, friends hugging, sharing stories, belonging. And you? You walk home alone. You eat alone. You exist, but you don't feel like you belong anywhere. And sometimes people whisper. They call you strange, quiet, antisocial. But what if the truth is something completely different? What if having very few friends doesn't mean you're broken? What if it means your mind simply works deeper than most people's? Today, I want to share a powerful story about a man who believed he was broken because he had no friends, until he discovered a life-changing truth. If you've ever felt different, misunderstood, or alone, stay with me. This story might change the way you see yourself forever. In a quiet valley surrounded by green hills and flowing rivers stood a small village. And in that village lived a man named Adrian. Adrian was not loud, he was not popular, and he did not have a group of friends. Every evening the villagers gathered in the town square. They laughed, talked loudly, and shared stories late into the night. But Adrian would simply walk past them with his head slightly down and return to his small wooden house at the edge of the village. The villagers often whispered about him. "Have you noticed him?" one would say. "He's always alone." Another would reply, "Yes, something must be wrong with that man." Adrian heard these whispers many times, and slowly those words began to live inside his mind. Every night he sat by the window of his small home and asked himself the same painful question. Why am I like this? Why can't I be like everyone else? Why don't I have friends? His heart felt heavy, not because he hated people, but because he believed something inside him was broken. The village gathering. One evening, a group of villagers invited him to sit with them. "Come join us, Adrian," someone shouted. "For once, don't sit alone." Adrian hesitated, but he thought to himself, maybe this is my chance. Maybe I can finally belong. So he sat with them. They smiled, they joked, they laughed loudly. But as Adrian quietly listened, something felt uncomfortable. People complimented each other while sitting together. Yet the moment someone stood up and left the group, the others began whispering about them. They mocked, they judged, they laughed behind their backs. Adrian felt a tightness in his chest. The conversation suddenly felt suffocating. He quietly stood up and began to leave. One man shouted after him, "See, that's exactly why he has no friends. He thinks he's better than everyone." But Adrian didn't think he was better. He simply wanted honesty. That night he realized something important. I would rather walk alone than sit among fake smiles. A few days later, the village held a festival. Music played, people danced, everyone was talking. Adrian tried once again to join the crowd. Someone said, "Beautiful weather today, isn't it?" "Yes, it is," Adrian replied politely. Another person said, "Have you tasted the baker's new bread?" "No, not yet," Adrian answered. The conversation continued, but every word felt shallow, surface level, empty. Adrian wanted to talk about life, dreams, meaning, but no one seemed interested in depth. They only wanted quick laughter and distraction. After a while, Adrian quietly left the celebration and walked home under the night sky. For the first time in years, he did not feel guilty for leaving. Instead, he whispered to himself, "I don't need 100 conversations. I just need one real connection." One evening, an old traveler passed through the village. He noticed Adrian sitting quietly beside the river. The traveler sat next to him and asked, You're different from the others here, aren't you?" Adrian looked down and sighed. "Yes, and honestly, I wish I wasn't." The traveler smiled kindly. "Why would you want to be like everyone else?" Adrian looked confused. The traveler continued, "Some people gain energy from crowds, but people like you lose energy from them. Not because you're weak, but because your mind observes everything more deeply." Adrian listened carefully. "You feel more," the traveler said. "You notice things others ignore, and thinking deeply takes energy." For the first time in his life, Adrian felt understood. From that day forward, Adrian stopped forcing himself to fit into places where he didn't belong. He spent his time reading books, working in his garden, walking through forests, thinking, learning. And something beautiful happened. He discovered he didn't need constant approval from others to feel complete. While many villagers needed crowds to feel important, Adrian discovered peace inside himself. Slowly, the feeling of being broken disappeared, and in its place, he felt something new: freedom. Years later, Adrian met someone who truly understood him, a quiet woodworker named Lucas who had recently moved into the village. Lucas was calm. He listened carefully. He never tried to change Adrian. Sometimes they talked for hours about life and dreams. Other times they simply sat in silence. And that silence never felt awkward. It felt peaceful. Adrian realized something powerful. One real friendship is worth more than 100 shallow ones. Years later, the traveler returned to the village. He found Adrian again beside the same river, but this time, Adrian was smiling. "You seem different," the traveler said. Adrian nodded. "I used to believe having no friends meant something was wrong with me. But now, I understand the truth." "And what truth is that?" the traveler asked. Adrian looked at the sky and said, "Having no friends doesn't mean you're broken. It simply means you're selective. It means you value depth instead of quantity. It means you protect your peace instead of chasing approval. And it means you're not afraid to walk alone until you find someone truly worth walking beside." If you're listening to this today and you feel alone, if you feel misunderstood, hear this carefully. You are not broken. You simply see the world more deeply than most people. And that is not a weakness. It's a rare strength. Never lower your standards just to fit in. Never force connections that drain your soul. Because one real friend is worth more than 1,000 fake ones. And sometimes the strongest people walk alone for a while. But one day, they find their people. And when they do, everything changes.